of yesteryear were on Yud Tet Shvat, the 19th of Shvat, marks the Hilul of a famous Persian rabbi. His name was Harav Menahem Shemuel Halevy, Zecher Tzedek Libracha, also popularly known as Mullah Menahem, very great Persian rabbi. And I believe he was born in the English year 1884, that naturally we call in Hebrew Hey Tafresh Mem Dalet, and passed away in the year 1940, to be precise, on the 28th of January of that year. He was approximately 56 years of age. At the time he passed away, became a great rabbi, let's just say, of the congregation in Hamadan in Iran, respectively. He was an educator, a Torah educator. He wrote various different poems or Torah songs in itself, was a translator in of itself, was connected within regards to various Zionistic organizations also, and would, I believe, make Aliyah to the land of Israel, I think around in the early 1920s in himself. He would become a judge also in the Beit Mishpat HaShalom Ivri. Very interesting enough. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Okay, so he was born in Hamadan in Iran, and he came from great rabbinic heritage. His father's name was Rav Shemuel Mordechai, and his mother's name was Rabbanit Halevy, Rachel Halevy, respectively. And he would actually learn at a young age Torah in various different places in of itself. Very interesting enough. Remember, at that point in time, it was a time period of a change, you could say, to some degree, in the Persian community, in Iran, in of itself, in various different parts of Iran, and very much, he was born inside that, let's just say, that atmosphere in of itself. I believe he would actually start learning in a school that was opened, I think, in the year 1900, if I'm not mistaken, called the Kol Yisrael Chaverim School, the Alliance Universal School, which we've mentioned about on various occasions before, because there were two Jewish school systems over there, the Alliance one, and possibly a more stronger Torah education school called Otsa HaTorah, which maybe you would say was a stronger level in of itself. There was more Torah education in that in of itself. But he would later on move to the yeshiva, which was founded by his father, Yeshivat Minchat Shemuel, respectively. And it's actually interesting. He would very much trained to teach at, I think, a governmental school, if I'm not mistaken, in Hamadan, and was working as a Hebrew and French teacher at a specific school while he was quite young also. So he was doing like a lot during his teenage years, very much so, and was, at that point in time, so Minchat Shmuel was a prominent yeshiva. I think this yeshiva, which we just mentioned, was running between the years 1846 to 1918, if I'm not mistaken, also. But he seems like he had, at a very young age, a huge passion for educating and learning and being imbued into. I think, come what the year 1907, he was appointed a deputy, or like, let's say, of a manager in a school. And in the year 1910, he was appointed as a manager, Menahem, as they say. And I think this would continue for several years in of itself, very much so. And at that point in time, he would have been about in his mid-20s, approximately at that stage. And then he would become the Rabbi of Hamadan. I think in the year 1913, remember that point in time, he was still in his late 20s, which was a phenomenal position it would be over there. And he was outstanding. He was a man of the congregation in of itself, and really did a huge amount, let's just say, to inject and to improve Torah Jewish life in that place, respectively. He would become a judge also. He would, also an educator in of itself. I believe while he was in Hamadan, one of the schools he worked in was the Alliance School also. And I believe he would become the principal of the Alliance School at a later stage. He would become a civil leader and representative of the Jewish community to the Hamadan municipality. So he was very heavily connected with, let's say, governmental officials and more people outside of the Jewish world in of itself. We know that he was a very passionate Zionist, as we stated at the beginning of the video. He was teaching Hebrew language and adherence. Obviously, he was a great level of Torah. He authored poetry, essays, and historical works in Hebrew. And I believe also many of these writings were in Persian, also focused on Iranian Jewish history, let's just say, and the Jewish community of Hamadan in of itself. Very, very good place. Now, he was an influential advocate for the rights of the Jewish community in Hamadan and helped protect many Jews from persecution. It was a time period, unfortunately, of strong anti-Semitism, and he was very much trying to combat it in all possible shapes and forms. He believed that his role as a representative of the municipality in Hamadan could provide a measure, let's say, of more security against, let's say, persecution, and particularly by the Shiite majority that happened to be at that stage in time. He was also very much encouraging and motivating individuals who, God forbid, they ended up leaving Judaism to return to faith. He was not giving up on people that might have left the faith. Maybe they might have been forced to leave the faith in of itself, but he would really mitzkarev people and not give up on people. He opposed Jewish assimilation very much, so he was worried about that. And he really, really detested if a Jewish person would convert to other religions, like especially Islam and the Baha'i faith in of itself. I think that was a time period where these streams of these religions were becoming popular at that point in time, where it was a big threat that people were leaving. It's reported over his efforts led many converts, particularly from Mashhad, to rejoin the Jewish community, because we know all about the history of what actually occurred at the time period in Mashhad, especially in the late 1800s, early 1900s himself. And it earned him recognition from the Alliance Israel Universal, the school system in of itself. I think they honored him to some degrees in of itself. Rav Halevy authored various different pamphlets, also gave great sermons in the synagogues and established organizations aimed at, let's say, trying to re-embrace and bring the people back that were forced to convert in of itself. He was known as a prominent religious leader and a passionate Zionist also, and inspired many Jewish people to immigrate to Eretz Israel. This was a time period, especially in the early 1900s, there'll be a wave of aliyot coming, especially from Iran, respectively. I believe he would actually move to Palestine at the time, Eretz Israel, in the year 1924-ish, I believe, 1924, and emerged as a leader within the Iranian Jewish community once he came to Israel. He became a prominent figure in the Iranian congregation and had various vital roles in organizations, including Va'ad HaSfadim and the Histadrut Haluzei HaMizrachi of Jerusalem. I think come with the year 1924. This was already a year and a half into his arrival. So yeah, naturally, it must have been about 1923 came in. The Va'ad HaLumi of the Jewish community in, let's say, Eretz Israel in Palestine, appointed him as a judge in the Hebrew courts. He was had an integral part in the Bet Din in of itself. He worked with various different organizations to raise funds and encourage Jewish immigrants to move to Eretz Israel. He was a Shadar, a rabbinic emissary for Keren HaYisod and the HaMizrahi. He would travel to various different countries and areas, famous cities, especially Aden, Beirut, Sidon, Damascus, and Egypt. So it was very, very well traveled. It's reported over that he would even travel as far as India and will meet with the Mahatma Gandhi. I think at that point in time, the purpose of the trip was to advocate for Zionism. And I think come with the time period, the specific date, February 3rd, in the year 1939, the Mizrahi organization World Central expressed their gratitude to Rav Halevy for founding a Mizrahi branch in Bombay and acknowledged the significance of the meeting with Gandhi. They expressed hope that this discussion might have positively influenced Gandhi's perspective, let's say his vision on Zionism or perception on Zionism. However, it was reported over it was a tough trip in and of itself, and he would pass away ill shortly afterwards and passed away in 1940. We're talking about 85 years ago here from the time of recording. So it was approximately 56 years of age, I believe, at the time he passed away. He wrote different great works. I think especially there was a work published in the year 1932 called the Mordechai ve'Esther in Shushan Abira. This was before he passed away, about 8 years before he passed away. He described the grave site of Mordechai and Esther and different traditions and legends of the Iranian community in of itself. Then there was a Mirot Israel, which was, I think, in Hebrew and in Persian. I think that was printed in 1921 by the Zionist Union in Iran, in that branch in of itself. It printed in Hamdan, the Shivat Zion and the Shi'ir HaGeula were various poems written in honor of the 35th anniversary of the Mizrahi organization, and the Tafsir Mi Kamocha, which is commentary in Persian about Yehuda Halevy's poem, followed by a poem about Hadassah and Esther, which I think was bilingual also in itself. There was various different manuscripts also, including the history of the Jewish community in Iran since the signing of the Talmud until today. Then there was Mizan el-Haq, which was, let's say, a criticism on the Baha'i religion. The Zeh Yenach Ameinu, which was about the Chumash, actually the 5 books of Moses, the commentaries on Halacha, Jewish law, and Haggadah, and a compilation of Shushan on religious sites in Iran, exploring the country in of itself. Translation, he did a translation in Farsi, in Persian, of Chovot HaLevavot, the famous book, and there were a few other different, let's just say, manuscripts, which he actually wrote in himself. But don't forget to light candles in his memory. It's his Hilula over here. And we're a community here, friends. We're learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear, especially the great Sephardi Rabbanim. Over here happens to be Yutet Shvat, his Hilula, 19th of Shvat. Wishing you all well. Take care, and please subscribe to the channel. And if you happen to be related to any of the great rabbis we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more. So wishing you well.